Bye, bye, bye. Temple football is looking to get back in sync after a week off.
The Owls travel to South Florida this week. We preview that. Plus,
live from Edberg Olson Hall, I'll highlight the Temple football players who have flocked in from around the globe. And it all starts on a brand new edition of Inside the Nest, starting right now.
hello everyone and welcome into a brand new edition of Inside the Nest. He's Ray Dunn and I'm Jackson Neal. With the bye week over and midterm grades handed out, we're officially entering the second half of the season.
But first, it's been the cloud hanging over the AAC season, conference realignment. Luckily, there seems to be some light poking through on that horizon. The AAC will be receiving applications from 6 new schools, according to a report released Monday night by Yahoo Sports.
The schools include Florida Atlantic, Charlotte, North Texas, UTSA, Rice, and UAB. The conference is expected to accept the invitations of all the schools and expand to 14 programs for both football and basketball. We will digest this more coming up later in the show on No Huddle. As for the here and now, the bye week is in the rearview mirror. Now, it's off to USF. The Bulls enter this week winless in the conference. Despite nearly beating a sleepwalking Tulsa team this past Saturday, the Bulls have looked thoroughly unimpressive all year long. And this is not a new trend for South Florida, with its struggles dating back to 2020. In 2020, the Bulls looked completely overmatched. The team went 1-8 with their only win coming against FCS opponent the Citadel in the first week of the season. Among their losses was a close 39-37 defeat to Temple, which gave the Owls their only victory in 2020. This led to South Florida being picked dead last in the AAC preseason poll coming into this year, and so far, they've lived up to that prediction. They are currently tied for last with Tulane in the conference, and much like 2020, their only win this season is against another FCS team, a 38-17 win in Week 3 over Florida A&M.
Breaking down the Bulls and Owls matchups throughout the years, there have been some good ones. Look no further than last season as Temple defended home field for their only win of the season. Amir Tyler stopped a 2-point conversion at the end of the fourth quarter, locking up the Owls' 39-37 win.
There are not too many current players who might remember USF's last win over Temple. It was a 43-7 blowout in 2017, which was the largest margin of victory in the series history. Their only other victory against Temple came back in 2015 when Willie Taggart coached the Bulls to a 44-23 decision. But this year, it's been a completely different story. The Bulls have been outscored by 121 points this season.
Temple should win this game. A key to do so will be through big plays. USF has allowed nearly 7 yards per play this season and has allowed 7 pass plays of over 40 yards. Their run defense can't be any worse, right? Wrong. They've allowed 3 runs of 40-plus yards, one of the worst marks in the FBS. It's par for the course for a defense that's giving up 500 yards per game. These big plays are the type of plays that Temple hasn't gotten a ton of this season. The Owls only had 4 plays for 40-plus yards through their first 6 games of the season. The return of Randall Jones will help with this. The graduate wide receiver has had 6 catches of 40-plus yards since 2018. If Temple is able to capitalize on big opportunities, this game won't be close.
A quick glance at South Florida shows a team that has struggled on both sides of the ball. But there has been one bright spot. That's running back Jared Mangum. He transferred in from the University of Colorado, and after a slow start in the first game, he's been on an absolute tear. In the past 5 games, he's rushed for 10 touchdowns, accounting for nearly all of the Bulls' scoring output. While he hasn't been able to break big gains this season, his ability to find the end zone makes him South Florida's most dangerous weapon. And Temple has had trouble stopping the run. Currently, the Owls allow over 180 yards per game on the ground, which is 3rd worst in the American. If Mangum can control the game between the tackles and continue to find pay dirt, then South Florida should be able to get their first win in the conference.
Start digging for that ESPN password because you are going to need to stream this game. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. on ESPN+. This will be the 4th time that Temple plays on ESPN Plus this season, the most of any AAC school. As for the road trip itself, Temple won its most recent game in Tampa Bay, but is 1-2 all-time at Raymond James Stadium.
If Temple wants to even that away record at 2-2 in the series, then it's going to need the help of some players who have experience when it comes to traveling long distances.
For more on who has come a long way to make their home on North Broad, we bring in Inside the Nest reporter Eric Jessberger. Hi, Eric.
Thanks, Jackson and Ray. Every football player comes from somewhere. 8% born and raised right here in the city of Philadelphia, while 84% come from towns across the nation. About 8%, the handful of those players left, call Temple their new home, in addition to the United States, far away from their childhood home. College football is an embedded part of American culture, which has provided countless numbers of players the opportunity to play the game at the next level. While many sacrifice their free time, nightlife, some sacrifice much more. College football players born internationally come over to the United States seeking to play the game they love at the collegiate level, with hopes of hearing their names called in the NFL draft. However, in order to chase this dream, they must leave their homes and families overseas. For one of Temple's own, he knows this sacrifice all too well.
I think Will is playing some of his best football that he's played of his career. And really, he's always been an explosive player. But the consistency now has really started to take hold, and really happy with what we're getting. And a lot of that is driven from the competition in that room every day. All those guys compete daily, and it's really fun to see how that is making everybody in that room better. And certainly that has had an effect on Will, too, for the positive.
Graduate linebacker William Cuenca is one of 8 internationally born players on Temple's 2021 roster, from locations around the globe ranging from Cuba to Liberia to Germany and Sweden. Each individual is living the college football American dream. It's their work ethic and talent on the field that have earned them a one-way ticket to Philadelphia, where they now call home.
You're taking someone 18 and trying to grow them up on and off the field. And so the development, seeing them graduate, seeing them develop on and off the field is really the most rewarding thing that we do.
Fourth rusher gets the sack. It is William Quink, the 6th-year senior.
It's the beauty of sports and the bond of a team where athletes such as Cuenca can find a new home away from home, in the end zone, as well as the city of brotherly love. William Cuenca and company are preparing to take another trip via airline, this time, however, traveling with the team when the Owls head down to South Florida to take on the Bulls in Week 8. Reporting from Edinburgh Olsen Hall, I'm Eric Jessberger, Inside the Nest. Jackson and Ray, back to you in Studio 3.
Thanks, Eric. It's time for our first break of the show. When we come back, we'll take a look at Rod Carey's weekly presser.
Plus, Rod won't do it, so we will. We'll be handing out our choices for single-digit jersey numbers later in the show. Inside the Nest, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside the Nest. Head coach Rod Carey addressed the media on Monday for his weekly press conference.
Here's Rod Carey on a number of topics, including the bye week, vaccines, and what he's looking for when he defers on the opening kickoff.
We had a good week. We got some self-scout done, got some rest done, got out there and practiced a couple times, really 3, stealing 1 for USF. And then, really got the game plan, a good head start on it, and just kind of finishing up that as we tweak and go through the course of the week here. We'll make final adjustments to that on everything. So with that, it's kind of getting back into rhythm of the season, which is good. Bye weeks can sometimes be where you kind of lose your rhythm a little bit, just of scheduling and things like that. So it feels good to be back in a rhythm with that stuff. So with that, we can open it up for questions.
I wanted to ask, now that this October 15th deadline we just passed for the school vaccination, the first shot, I guess, whether you have any unvaccinated players, maybe guys on the depth chart or, just on the team who are now restricted, right, in terms of team meetings or weight room or stuff like that, based on that? And if so, kind of what are those limitations they might have?
No, we have people unvaccinated on our team, but they have everyone has gotten feedback on exemptions from those who are unvaccinated, which isn't many. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's not too many. So protocols are still the same as they have been before this deadline and continue to be the same now. So business as usual really is what's going on right now.
I saw Nick Baggs announce yesterday he was going in the transfer portal, and he didn't go to Cincinnati. Was that just something that transpired in the last 7 days?
Nick and his mother have made a decision to move, and so they're obviously mother and son really respect that relationship and their decision. So they're going to go ahead and do that and be together on those things. So that is something that they decided, and certainly support a mother and a son's relationship and what they decide to do.
When you win the toss, you defer. You took the ball against both Memphis and Cincinnati. I don't know if there were different reasons or what sort of, I don't know, behind those two decisions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just decided to take the ball, try to get us off to a fast start, and it hasn't quite gone that way either. So just, trying different things to get us going earlier in games, which ultimately comes down to execution, the plan, and us having them ready to go, and then them going out executing. All of us have a responsibility for slow starts. So certainly using every tool in the toolbox to try to shake that loose.
Get your thoughts on William Cuenca as the team's lead sack leader and most lettered graduate linebacker. I want to ask what you've seen from him as an impact player this season.
Will is playing some of his best football that he's played in his career. And really, he's always been an explosive player. But the consistency now has really started to take hold, and really happy with what we're getting. And a lot of that is driven from the competition in that room every day. All those guys compete daily, and it's really fun to see how that is making everybody in that room better. And certainly that has had an effect on Will too, for the positive.
And William is one of 9 international players on your team this season. In addition, Jose Barbone and Edward Sadie, some of the other international players. To see these guys develop into talented D1 athletes, what does that mean to you as head coach?
Well, I don't know that because they're international, the development makes me feel any better than anybody else who's developing in our program. I think that the development of players, and I've said this a lot, the vast majority of college football programs are development. And you're taking someone 18 and trying to grow them up on and off the field. And so the development of our players, is probably the most rewarding piece of my job. And I know sometimes that's hard to grasp when you're sitting on your side of the aisle that you are, because, it's wins and losses determined and all that thing. But that development, seeing them graduate, seeing them develop on and off the field is really the most rewarding thing that we do.
Another week, another discussion of Temple's slow starts among the many things that Rod Carey touched on. But those slow starts, the decisions with the kickoff, what are we looking for going into this week against USF?
Well, I mean, really, this is one thing we've been talking about all season long so far, are these slow starts. Every single game so far this season, Temple has trailed in the first quarter. That's even against Wagner. They have not been able to get going early on, and that leads them to a lot of trouble going forward. I mean, against a team like Wagner or Akron, you're able to come back from that, but now that conference play is really getting going, you need to get those early starts, you need those early fast starts. And in terms of the kickoff, you would think that getting the ball, receiving the ball to start the game would help them with the tempo, but it really hasn't, as they mentioned the Memphis and Cincinnati games. So I'm not really sure exactly what Rod Carey can do differently. Maybe just game planning better and getting the team ready in the pregame warm-ups.
I have good news. You always refer to me as the optimist on this show, but I have good news in terms of this Temple team. USF has been outscored 61-16 in first quarters this season. So it'll be two teams that don't like playing in the first quarter. Might be the first three-quarter football game ever played between these two teams this weekend. Elsewhere in there, the Nick Maggs news, obviously, unfortunate for the program, but you appreciate the reasoning. Looking at the linebackers room, definitely a deep and talented group.
No, it definitely really is. I mean, mentioning Cuenca there, it's just been a really deep and talented group, especially with a lot of young players stepping up. It's now time for part 2 of Rod Carey's press conference, where he discusses USF and updates us on a bunch of injured players.
About USF, I watched a couple of their games here. It seems like the quarterback there, he is sort of like a living, breathing RPO. Would you agree with that assessment in a sense?
I don't know if I would ever call someone a living and breathing RPO, but he certainly is very mobile, and he certainly makes things happen with his legs, not just in the running game, but in the passing game. And certainly, has improved in the pocket too as the season has gone on, and things of that nature. So yes, he moves around, puts a lot of stress on defenses with his legs.
Their defensive front, do they change that as much as anybody you're going to play this year? Changing what they put down up front.
What do you mean?
Their numbers
personnel or scheme?
Yeah, the numbers. I think sort of 3-man, 4-man. Just different setups up front.
Yeah, I mean, this is, they have a unique defense, but I think you're seeing this defense more and more in college football, trying to take away RPOs and things like that, everybody's doing. So defenses are reacting to what offenses are doing, and, round and round we go. So they have their own spin on this structure of defense, like a lot of people do, but it starts out pretty similar to what we've seen the entire year.
Hey, Coach, just wanted to get some injury updates on Yvandy Rigby, Randall Jones, Michael Neese, and then also just how close are we to seeing possibly DMR back and Deshaun Winston?
Holy cow, it's a lot of names now. All right, Vondy practiced, so he's he's going to be in a good spot, and ready to go. Just, it's football, right? You're going to have to manage yourself through the course of the year here. Yeah, Randall is back. He's practicing full go, and obviously something he'll be ready to go. Michael Neese is in the day-to-day category, although making a ton of progress, really probably ahead of schedule of where we thought he would be, which is good. And then DMR, he has some time left here. I don't know the exact time, and really, when we did an X-ray a week ago, healing was going well. So, a lot of that's out of all of our controls, but he is starting some rehab and movement stuff because the healing is going very well. Was there another name?
And then Deshaun Winston.
Deshaun Winston. So today, I think today or tomorrow, we are doing another X-ray on him to assess where the healing is at. But he has some more time given the first time kind of range that I saw when he was first injured.
Hey, Rod, saw that Amir Tyler underwent some kind of surgery over the weekend. Wasn't sure if that was something routine or if there's anything you can tell us about that.
Yeah, it's he had an issue with his upper body, had to go ahead and get that surgery done. So he'll miss the next couple of weeks, but then should have him right back.
question about Michael Neese. What is it like to not have him on the field, and what kind of difference does it make when he plays?
Well, Mike is playing his best football of his career, and probably, playing the best up front, most consistent up front. So obviously when you take him out of the game, you feel that a little bit, but we certainly like our young guys who continue to grow and move at a rapid pace here with that young group of old linemen. And so they're getting some really good reps and, really starting to take off in their development too. So
how would you assess the play of the rest of the offensive line at this point?
Not up to our standard at this point, and that's been a, frustrating thing because we certainly feel like we can be playing better up there, and we need to get that right. And we spent a lot of time this week really addressing that and creating that competition, which eventually pushes everybody to be better. And some of that's been sparked with Mike being out, right? You have to get other guys in there, and so the competition starts to go, which is a good, positive thing for us.
Obviously, that was, maybe the best defense you'll face all year since he's got a great defense. But what specifically went wrong against them where DeLon was kind of running for his life most of the night?
Yeah, well, I think that, going back to that feels like a couple lifetimes ago. As we assessed that and we looked at that, is that some of that was we just got our butts whooped. And some of it then, when that starts to happen is people try to, press a little bit, and then all of a sudden now you're doing some things wrong. And so just needed to get back and keep improving that way. So, like I said, about the entire Cincy game, give them credit. They're a good football team. And, we didn't play our best either. So
just one last follow-up for you. And you mentioned liking your young guys. Are guys like Obadegu and Tolman and guys like that close to pushing a guy out of the way and maybe starting if things don't improve there?
Yeah, I certainly think we've seen that this week, that, they've kept improving, and there is good competition right there. So, Wiz is obviously in there. Rich Rodriguez is in this mix too, Vic Stoffel, Jim too. Certainly all these guys are right in there. And Luke Foster's done a good job of really from that early injury he had in fall camp where he missed quite a bit of time coming back and getting himself into this mix too. So feel good about where that competition. We got a long ways to go before Saturday before we'll know, how this shakes out.
That was part 2 of Rod Carey's press conference, and the main takeaway, the team physicians have been really busy for Temple.
Yes, they have. And looking across the updates, you have Randall Jones in. That's good. I mentioned it earlier in the show, what you're looking for in terms of the explosive offense for this Temple team. That's important. Vandy Rigby practiced, should be good. Another good sign for this defense. Michael Neese is a game changer for this offense, that offensive line. The day-to-day making progress holds out hope that he'll be there for USF. They need him as they get into a more difficult portion of the schedule later on in November. The unfortunate news in all that really is Amir Tyler. Amir Tyler being out is brutal. Again, something we mentioned earlier in the show. He was the one that sealed the USF victory last season. Without him, this defense is totally different.
No, it really is. He's such a difference maker for that defense. One thing that I wanted to touch on was looking at that Cincinnati game and specifically looking at the protection of DeJuan Mathis, or maybe the lack thereof protection. We saw him, as I said, running for his life all night long. Going forward, they're going to need to get him better protection because they need him healthy if they want to make a run in the conference.
Absolutely. Well, that's all we have from Rod Carey this week. When we come back, we take a look at a Temple tradition that is on hold this season, at least so far.
Plus, No Huddle is coming up later in the show. Is Cincy the best team in the history of the American? Just one topic we will tackle. Inside the Nest, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. One of the recurring conversations surrounding Temple this season is the lack of a single-digit vote. The tradition honoring the toughest players with a single-digit jersey began with Hall of Fame coach Al Golden in 2009.
But this season, no new players have been singled out with this recognition. Now, we didn't ask for permission. We're just running with it. We're picking some players who we think are Temple tough. I'm going to start by giving my first honor to running back Taevon Ruley. The graduate student has been at Temple since 2019 when he came in from Valley Forge Military Academy in college, and he's seen action in every season since. So far this year, he's second on the team with 152 rushing yards and a touchdown. He's a bulldozing runner from a military academy, making him a perfect example of being Temple tough. Next up, I'm staying on the offense, but this time, it's one of the players who paves the way for Ruley in Cj Perez. It's his second season at North Broad after transferring in from Northern Illinois, and last week marked his 13th consecutive start. That's the longest active streak on the offense. That staying power makes him one of the team leaders. And finally, over to the defense, where George Reed deserves to wear a single digit. The graduate student linebacker has been an Owl since 2017, and this season has been his most productive yet. He has 24 tackles, including a career-high 10 in Temple's Week 2 win over Akron. We're going with 3 different graduate students. Experience, it's a big part of earning a single digit.
It is, and it's tough when it comes to those 3. Cj Perez obviously not at Temple for the longevity of the other 2, the productivity of Ruley and Reed, just with the guys being cycled in behind them. It's interesting to see how that counts against them in some of those single-digit votes, but I do like your 3 picks. As for mine, I'm going to start with Manny Walker. He fits the bill of experience, and his production has been game-changing. 2 interceptions while playing on the defensive line, both coming in big moments in 2 of Temple's 3 wins. Looking at the first 6 games, you could argue, which I did last week, that he was the most impressive player on this team. For as proud as the Wild Boys tradition on the defensive line is at Temple, it's a travesty that there isn't one single digit from that position group. Elsewhere, I'm looking at right tackle Michael Neese as a single digit. He was playing some of his best football before he got banged up. Neese graded out as one of the 25 best offensive tackles in the country in the 2020 season, according to PFF. In addition to that, he's a great example of the best in a student athlete. A graduate student, Neese interned at Boeing this summer and was named a finalist for the William V. Campbell Trophy, which awards the nation's top scholar athlete. That's it for me. Only 2 single digits selected. Truthfully, Rod Carey has a point when he says it's tough to narrow down single digits on this squad. Well, some people definitely love this tradition. It's important not to force it.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, looking at this team, just looking through the roster myself, lots of transfer students, lots of younger players, especially that linebacker position. You see a lot of these freshmen stepping up and making big plays. You want the single digit to be someone who's been with the program for a couple of years, someone who's really, earned that leadership position and not just given to him his first year on campus. So you're right, even though we gave our own picks, it's nice that they haven't maybe given them out just yet. Make the players earn it. Well, it's now time for us to take another break. Coming up, we're taking the show No Huddle.
And later, we get to up to speed with some Owls in the NFL. Inside the Nest, we'll be back in 90. Welcome back to Inside the Nest. 6 games left and 6 minutes to give our takes on the Owls' outlook.
Last week, we looked back at the first half of the season. Now, it's time to look ahead. Let's go No Huddle. Earlier in the show, we mentioned the report from Yahoo Sports that said that Florida Atlantic, Charlotte, North Texas, UTSA, Rice, and UAB are all expected to apply to join the American. Are these the right teams for the AAC to invite for expansion?
Yes, they have to be. These are the teams looking to move, and they fit the mold of the American. Urban-based schools, football-centric moves here, and they fit the geographic footprint that the conference previously had. The 2 Texas teams have money at their disposal, new facilities, and Rice has a large endowment that can help them move their athletics forward. Also, they have schools from growing metros, Charlotte, UTSA, which have young football programs. Those are your future bets. And UAB and FAU have both been aggressive in making their programs good. This will be a 14-team league that if you win and wait, you will be the next team invited up to the Power 5.
Ray, you're a little too optimistic for me. I'm going to say that no, these are not the right teams. Yes, UAB and UTSA, I really like those moves. But if you look around college football at the other group of 5 schools, there are way better options out there. Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, University of Louisiana. These teams are much more experienced college football programs, have a lot more going for them. And if you look at these teams that they're about to bring into the AAC or expected to join, they're just simply Conference USA teams. That's not going to move the AAC up into possibly being a Power 5 or Power 6 conference. I don't like this move.
Enjoy your road trip to Boone, North Carolina for App State. Anyways, the AAC news, Cincy moved up to number 2 in the latest national poll. Is this year's team better than the undefeated 2017 Central Florida squad that claimed a national title, even though they didn't really win it?
Well, let's pump the brakes a little bit on this Cincinnati team and really remember that 2017 Central Florida team. They went 13-0. Their last 3 wins all against ranked teams. Number 22 South Florida, number 16 Memphis, number 7 Auburn, the same Auburn team that beat a top-ranked Alabama squad in that year's Iron Bowl. Plus, look at the talent on that roster. 4 NFL draft picks, 2 undrafted free agents. Mackenzie Milton, their quarterback, throwing for over 4,000 yards. Oh, and plus, they started the school's 25-game winning streak. It's definitely Central Florida as the best team in AAC history.
You've redeemed yourself. Great job here, Jackson. You were right on this one. I agree with you. UCF is the better team. On top of that, UCF's team didn't get that extra year eligibility where they could bring back their entire team from last season and dominate a poorer AAC the way that Cincinnati has. That's all I really have for you. They made Scott Frost look like a good college football coach there for 2 years. That's impressive enough, seeing what he's done at Nebraska.
Yeah, you're right. Also one of the first college football program to go from winless to undefeated in just 2 years. Now, question 3. The Owls are 3-3, 6 games to go. Where do we think Temple will finish in the AAC?
I think Temple is going to finish 7th in the AAC. You look at the teams around them right now in the standings. Tulane, a brutal stretch. SMU, Cincy, and UCF. The 3 next games on their schedule, they're already 0-2. Put them out of the way. USF and Navy, I've been saying it for weeks. They are not good football teams. Put them behind the Owls, and it comes down to Temple, ECU on November 6th. The winner of that game could probably be for bowl eligibility for ECU, given their current state, and for Temple, it would probably be for that 7th spot in the conference. Temple's remaining schedule is 16-21 combined. Only 1 team with a winning record. I think they've outperformed their 10th place billing.
All right, Ray, you are right that they'll be in the bottom half, but just go down a couple spots. I'm saying 9th overall. Right now, their schedule, yes, they're not, the combined record of their upcoming opponents is not as good as you might think, but most of their winnable games, Temple's winnable games, are on the road. They have to host teams like 3-0 in Conference Houston, current 4th place team Tulsa. It's not too much of an easy schedule going ahead. I say they finish 9th, right ahead of Tulane and Navy.
All right, time for what's right ahead of us. Who's winning the game this week, Temple or South Florida?
I have a feeling you're going to disagree with me on this one, Ray. Let's not forget South Florida is the favorite going into this. I'm picking them 28-23. I say Temple starts off slow and they control the game running the ball.
USF has started slow as well. 61-16, they've been outscoring first quarters. It's not like this is Temple going against a top flight team. I am guaranteeing an Owls victory this week. I will handwrite each and every viewer an apology if the Owls lose this game. 38-28, the Owls go on the road and win this game. I can't believe you.
Better be prepared to write a lot of letters then.
That's all the time we have for No Huddle, but do not go anywhere. We'll take you outside of the nest for a look at some AAC football.
It's our last break of the day. Inside the Nest will be back in just 90 seconds. Welcome back to Inside the Nest. We're now a couple weeks into conference play, and the standings in the American are starting to take shape.
For more on what's happening in the conference, we bring on Inside the Nest reporter Emily Cochran. Hi, Emily.
Thanks, guys. It's another Tuesday, so that means we get to talk AAC. And the standings are looking very similar to Eric's predictions last week on this very same show. Houston, Cincinnati, and SMU still remain undefeated in conference play and hold the top 3 spots on the board. Cincy is really the class of the league right now that leaves SMU and Houston working to figure out who might be the other team in the conference title game come December. Moving down the line, Tulsa, ECU, Temple, and Memphis sit in the middle, but keep in mind the Owls and East Carolina have yet to play their 3rd conference games, so this will shift the numbers a bit. And finally, UCF, Navy, Tulane, and South Florida are at the bottom of the board. Navy has played 4 conference games, while the rest of the AAC has only played 2 or 3, which could also be throwing some things off. South Florida and Tulane have yet to win a conference game. The Owls are getting ready to take on USF this weekend, but they don't have Tulane on their schedule for 2021. Ray and Jackson, back to you guys.
Thanks, Emily. Let's now turn our attention from college to the NFL, where multiple Temple players are making an impact on Sundays. Beginning on the offensive side of the ball, former Owl Dion Dawkins is starting at left tackle for the Buffalo Bills and opening holes for their running game. The Bills are currently a top 10 rushing team in the NFL.
I'll stay on the offensive line with Falcons center Matt Hennessy. He's established himself as Atlanta's starting center in just his second season. He has started all 5 games, allowing just 1 sack and committing only 1 penalty. He has made good on his decision to declare early and enter the 2020 NFL Draft. If you're into PFF ratings, Hennessy has actually outperformed Dawkins this season. Just saying.
Okay, well, let's now go to the defensive side, where my standout is Carolina Panthers edge rusher Hassan Reddick. The former first-round pick is currently top 3 in the league in sacks with 6.5, including 3 against the hometown Philadelphia Eagles in Week 5. This puts him on pace to eclipse his career-high total of 12.5 sacks from last season. Ray, what do PFF ratings have to say about that?
Well, I'm going to go with another player that makes his living on getting pressure into the backfield. Michael Dogby got his first career start on Sunday afternoon for the only unbeaten team in football. We're talking wins, Jackson. These Arizona Cardinals. The former Temple defensive lineman has totaled 5 tackles, a sack, and a tackle for loss so far this season as he rotates into his role.
Finally, to the former Owls who are now roaming the sidelines. And I'm going to stay the Carolina Panthers and none other than Matt Rule, who is in his second season at the helm down there. Last year, the team had a disappointing 5-11 record, lots of close losses, but so far this season, things are starting to turn around. They are 3-3, and even though they've struggled in recent weeks, they've kept the games close despite missing their star player, Christian McCaffrey.
Now, for the coaches, I'm going with the first place team in Matt Rule's division. Bruce Aryans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are humming once again. Fresh off of last year's Super Bowl victory, Aryans and his staff of former Owls are 5-1. They also did what Rule's team couldn't do, as they knocked off the Philadelphia Eagles last week. With a rather favorable schedule the rest of the way, the Bucs could end up the top seed in the NFC. And from the Temple coaches in Tampa Bay to the Temple game in Tampa Bay, it's that time once again. You get to tell us who you think will win in Saturday's game between Temple and USF. I'm clearly feeling very confident in the Owls, but what do you think? Our viewers are 4-1 on the season, meaning maybe I should list them a little more.
Yeah, definitely. And don't forget, on Thursday, Owl Sports Update is back. Anchors Luke Milai and Lindsay Mopper will be on the desk to break down the week in Temple sports live right here on TUTV. And then, each week this semester, our 3-show lineup, our Monday Sports Brief. We're here on Tuesdays with Inside the Nest. And finally, Owl Sports Update on Thursdays. And that's all semester long.
And before we get a chance to say goodbye here, Jackson, I'm going to give you a chance to make good with the entire Temple fan base on this prediction you've laid out.
No, I'm going to stick with it. I'm saying South Florida wins this football game this weekend. Look, Temple, the last taste in their mouth is that loss to Cincinnati. Yes, they're coming off a bye week, but USF just barely lost last week. I think they come out of this game, come out of the gates hungry at home. You mentioned that 1-2 record in the series in Tampa Bay. I think this is a game for the Bulls to get that first conference win, get their first win over an FBS opponent since almost 2 years to the day back on October 26, 2019.
You're backing a team that hasn't won an FBS game in 2 years. You know, as for us, we're out of time. Now we can wait to see if Temple can extend their winning streak to USF to 4 games.
Well, for Ray Dunn and the entire Inside the Nest crew, I'm Jackson Neal. See you next Tuesday.